Welcome to the Weekday Refill. I am Sarissa Latoy, and I am so glad that you're here. So yesterday I began a conversation about mentorship and the importance of having mentorship. And in speaking on mentorship, I think that it's very important to talk about the fact that I have had multiple mentors over the course of my 20-year career. And those mentors have not all been designers, nor have they all been in the same spiritual alignment as myself, but they all have impacted my life, my business, even how I design. And so I want to just keep talking about what I began to share on yesterday about mentors and the importance of having mentors. And as I said, if you are looking in the Word, you're going to see different things like advisors, wise counsel, discipleship. Those words come up. You're not really going to see the word mentorship. I haven't yet done the etymology on the word. I love to research a word and see where it came from. But I will tell you that the heart of what mentorship or even coaching is found definitely in the Word. And as I said, Proverbs 13 and 20 and 15 and 22 both spoke about what happens and how your life is the better when you walk with wise counsel. And even as I speak now, I'm reminded of how the disciples were mentored by Christ, and how they walked through their life in mentorship, in discipleship rather, or not really rather, more specifically discipleship. And they were able to then learn to go out and to do varying things for the purpose of the kingdom and for the purpose of spreading the gospel message. Now, I am not putting any mentor on the pedestal of Christ at all. None of us could even pretend to want to reach that mark. And if you run across somebody that does, steer very clear of them, because they should always be pointing you back to Christ in the Godhead in order to help you push and move your business forward. But in business, I've had some really great mentors. Best mentor that I had ever was one, Terry Taylor, that I was with. I want to say it was like 2017, 2018, like right in there, for some time. And one of the biggest things that I learned from her was were the biggest shifts, right? I learned so much for Terry's. I was with her for a couple of years. But one of the biggest things that I learned from Terry was that she taught me that what we do as designers is not average, right? Especially those of us that have gone forth and honed our skills, those things that are in our tool belt that allow us to be able to go out and move in purpose to do what God has called us to do as designers. And we've done the schooling and all of that. You know, she really showed me, that I wasn't average, right? That I was above average. And because I was above average and because I offered such great value in transformation to my clients, that I should be charging should be charging more, ultimately to get to a point of charging a premium level, but that I should be charging more than what I was charging. And there was so much that I learned in my first interaction with her before I actually joined her course and joined her program to become a better equipped, mentally equipped designer. I learned, I had this first major shift, and in terms of having confidence. And like, that's what mentorship brings, right? It brings confidence. It brings confidence for you to be able to go and to ask hard questions like, what's your budget? Super hard question, right? But then when you hear people, and you hear wise counsel, and you hear advisors, and prior to me meeting Terry, I've heard some really powerful people here in San Antonio in the contracting world say things like, I'll tell a client, if they are not telling me their budget, I'm getting off the phone, and they need to call me when they know what their budget is, because that's so very important, right? How can I do anything for you unless I know what it is that I can do for you? And knowing a person's investment is very important, in knowing what parameters you need to be in order to be able to give them the transformation that they desire. And so nonetheless, that first encounter that I had with Terry was in a CEU. I was a 3-hour long CEU at ProSource, which is a lot of condensed brain power for one day for myself. But I was just in a particular place where business wasn't going well. Things had kind of like simmered down more than what I was really expecting, needing, and hoping for my family and for my household. And so I needed more, but I didn't know how to attain more. And then in this 3-hour course, I don't remember everything that she talked about, but what I do remember is that she talked about the fact that I wasn't average. And what was super cool was while Terry is not a believer as I am, Terry was able to speak to what my pastor was speaking to in that season, and he had a sermon series called Don't Be Average. And it was really funny how the Lord worked those two things together so succinctly, so that I could be able to hear the spiritual side of Don't Be Average, and then hear the practical side of Don't Be Average. This is why I said that Proverbs 15 and 22, when it talks about having many advisors, like, that's super important, because you're going to get different pieces of input, right? Even when we get prophetic words, we hear in the Bible that it says in prophecy that we see in part and that we hear in part. Nobody has the full picture, right? The Lord has the full picture. However, he uses other people to help us, see that full picture and get it into view. And so he used Terry to get it into view that I wasn't average. And then he used Terry and some things that she had created and developed for her programming, to where I was able to learn how to price. And she had like this whole packet that she gave away that had a CD. This is how long ago it was that I actually had a CD. And so it had a CD where you could download this huge Excel document that could get you to learn how to correctly go through and bid out a project. Because many times what was happening that I learned, and this is just practical knowledge, like I was learning that I was missing steps that I was doing, but I wasn't accounting for those steps when I was sitting down and creating my proposals and creating my bids. And so I knew that I wanted to do fixed pricing for my clients, but I wasn't properly trained or shown how to really go about figuring out what that fixed price should be. And so Tara really one, gave me the courage to just go for it because I'm not average, and then two, I won the prize. And it was so funny, guys. There was like she had like all of our names in a bag, right? All of our names in a bag. And she pulled a name out. This is not a bag, but we're gonna pretend this is a bag. And she like pulled a name up out of the bag, and I said, Lord, that's not my name. And she did like this and pulled another name out the bag, and that was my name, and I won this prize. And so like I go back home. The prize was the CD with the Excel document, and I went through and I was like, the next time I get somebody to come to me, I'm gonna run through this program, this Excel, and I'm gonna price it the way that she recommends, based on this program, right? So the funny thing about this and about the Lord and these resolves that we come to sometimes is that he doesn't always make it easy. So the first person that actually came to me after I had made this resolve that I was going to use this packet, that I was not going to be average, that I was going to charge more for what I do, and all of this stuff, right? The first person was a client that I had literally just finished remodeling their master bathroom and a hall bathroom in their home, and they called me up because they want me to design 2 more bathrooms and do some minor paint selections through the house and whatnot. And I was like, oh gosh. So then I freak out, right? Because I said I was going to do this for the next person, but the next person cannot be the last person that I signed a contract with, right? Or the last person that I finished with, because this person was like super fresh. And it was, by the time all the timing went through, this is probably about 6 months after we finished to when they were ready to start design for their next project. And y'all, I was nervous. Do you hear what I'm saying? To implement this new thing so close with somebody that already knew what I charged. Wild. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just go for it. She told me that I could do it. She told me that I wasn't average. You know, the word tells me that I'm not average. And I know I'm not average. And I know that you're not average simply because, one, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. The Lord thought about us in so much great detail that how could we possibly think that we were average? We only think that we're average when we compare ourselves to other people rather than to ourselves and to how God created us. And are we moving and walking in where He designed us to move and walk in? This is only about me. This has nothing to do with anybody else in terms of competition. I'm in competition with myself, making sure that I myself am performing and doing the things that God has called me to do the way that He has called me to do it. So I am not average. So I am pumping myself up with the word and with the words from the advisor and the advisement that I received from Terry Taylor at this first particular event and our first encounter together, which, like I said, was for 3 hours. And so I sit down with the spreadsheet and I'm typing and I'm filling in all the little Excel things and all of that, and I come up with a number, and it was terrifying. Why was it terrifying? Because I did 2 bathrooms for him before, so now I'm doing 2 bathrooms for him again, and like I said, just a little bit of little extra stuff sprinkled on the side. So I'm like, this number is easily about 3.5x 3.5x what I had charged him just the contract that we had just finished a few 6 months ago. Terrifying, absolutely petrified. Okay, so what did I do? I, again, reminded myself I'm not average. I reminded myself I can do it. I reminded myself all the things that my mentor, my mentor said to me when she was advising myself and the other designers in the room that I could do it. So I decided that I was just gonna send it. So I sent the contract. I wrote it up. I sent over the proposal. At that time, I was using Adobe Acrobat. They have a signing feature, so I sent that over. Y'all know they signed it right away. It made the deposit right away. And didn't question me at all whatsoever about me charging them 3.5 times more than what I did for a very similar project before. The same client. When I tell you, that blew my mind. Blew my mind because it told me that I just found out that I wasn't average, but my client knew that I wasn't average. And they knew that they had gotten a steal on that first project. But they knew that I deserved it on this next project. And every time I've done a project with them, I have increased my pricing. And not out of malice or anything, but because, the cost of living changes, the cost of what we're doing changes, or what have you. And so I have, charged them appropriately and accordingly, but that price has increased over the years that we've worked together. We've worked together for over 10 years by this point. But it was just so exciting to me, and I would have never had the courage to be able to go forth and to ask for that if I didn't have the groundwork laid for how to do what I needed to do and how to do my job well. And I appreciate in this moment, in that moment, I appreciated both, right? As I reflect now and just then when I was actually going through the process, I appreciate both the spirit-led, spirit-filled mentorship and advisement that I got through my pastor across the pulpit, and in our personal interactions with one another as we talked about business and growth and all of this. And then the advisement from someone in the industry of, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, this is how you get to the solution. So not just telling me you're not average, God didn't create you to be average, but also telling me and showing me what I needed to do, what I needed to say, what I needed to think, and then how I needed to operate within my business so that I did not produce average results in terms of the financial investment that people vested into me to do the service that I provided for them. And so, like I said, mentorship is so extremely important. And I love that Proverbs 15:22 that says many advisors. It's important to have many advisors because you have to stay and keep yourself leveled. Of course, your number one advisor is always Holy Spirit. And then after that, it's whoever the Lord leads into you and how he's talking to add to what he said to you in the spirit, right? And so it's important for you to pay attention. And it's also important for you to not be so holy that you think that it could only come from the Lord. If you think that only the Lord can speak to you, do remember this. Remember that in Genesis, in the beginning, when he created Adam, and Adam went and Adam did his job. He named all the animals. He did everything that the Lord required and asked of him in the beginning. And then at one point, God looked and he said, "It is not good for man to be alone." He doesn't just mean that in the intimate relationship of a husband and wife. Absolutely, that is a necessary relationship. But he means that in general. It is not good for man to be alone. Just like we should have friends, we should have colleagues, we have community, and all of that. He has all of that wrapped up together because it's not good for us to be alone. And the truth of the matter is that in the circles that I go in interior design, and where I have been for the last 15 years of my career, is I have been seemingly alone, right? I've been an island. That's what we call it. When you're a solopreneur, we call it living on an island of being alone. And when you're out there on the island, you're just trying to figure out how to survive sometimes. And you're not really working in your business or doing the things that you need to do within your career. And you don't really, and it's because you don't know what to do. And you don't know what to do because you don't have anybody that is at the same level as you, iron sharpening iron, and you don't have anybody that is a senior to where you are, so that their iron can also sharpen your iron. It's very important. That's another proverb, iron sharpens iron. But it's very important for us to realize, to recognize, and just think and settle in on the fact that we are that in order for us to live out our call, that some type of mentorship is necessary. If only it be so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made. But mentorship really can also catapult you into your next. And that's what this mentorship did for me with Terry Taylor. It really catapulted me to where I am now, to realize and to recognize that a lot of why I wasn't doing so well in my business was in my head, in terms of my mindset, and not necessarily the part of my head where my creativity sat. But in my mindset and how I approach projects, and how I approach luxury and high-end projects as well. Very scared, very timid, very concerned on if they could write the check or if the check would clear, like all of these things. And the truth of the matter is that all of that is not true and needs to be dismantled. And only with others in community can we work together to dismantle those truths, and then build up the truth, which is, one, you got to have wise counsel. Two, Christ came so that he said out of his mouth, I came so that you could have life and have it more abundantly. He intended for us to have an abundant life. And again, as I've said before, this is not abundance in just wealth and finances. I think that view of the prosperity gospel, so to speak, is such a short-sighted view of who and what God is and what God really desires for us. He desires for us to be abundant in every single area of our life. You know, when you look at a tree, right? You do not call a tree that only one branch produces fruit to be abundant, right? That's the prosperity gospel in my life, in my mind rather, is that one branch on a tree producing fruit. No other branches are even important. No other branches matter. No other branches are producing. If the other branches are sick or whatever the case may be, oh well. This one branch is producing good fruit. But what he wants is he wants our whole tree, right? The Lord has called us trees of righteousness. He wants our whole tree to be fruitful, our whole tree to be creating and making and growing good fruit. He wants our whole life to be prosperous. So not just our finances, that's just one branch, but our family, our business, our relationships, our community, our spiritual life, our walk, how we minister to others, just like literally every single aspect of our life. He wants that to be functioning in abundance. That is what he brought us to. And that is how his life and ultimately Christ's death for us allowed us, once we believe in his death and resurrection, to be planted and transplanted back into the garden so that we can flourish in all areas of our lives. So that was today's weekday refill. I really hope that you enjoyed it. As I spoke, I just got a lot of insight and am just really reminded really how much God truly loves us, how not average we are, but how extremely exemplary, unique, and one of a kind each of us are. And because each of us are exemplary, one of a kind, and unique, we all have different people that we are called to serve. And so when I tell you that interior design is ministry and you are called to serve, I'm called to serve, we're all called to serve, and we're called to serve a unique group of people that are just as unique as us ourselves. And that's so exciting. And so as I close this weekday refill, I just want to say thank you for being here. You know, I'm Sarissa Latoy. I'm the Dreamcaster. If you don't know who I am, I'm an author. I am a seasoned interior designer with over 21 years in the industry, and I'm also a mentor to Christian interior designers like yourself. And these moments, these weekday refills, are just times for us to be able to pause, center on God, and refill so that we can pour from our overflow. And I'm really happy that you're here with me today. Tune in tomorrow for more on this conversation on mentorship and discipleship as told by the word. And I look forward to seeing you then. And don't forget, design, serve, and thrive.